Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian. Let's raise our voices together as we sing Building a New Way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. Cool. Before we go on, I need help with verse 3 and 4 because they're on the side of the music, not in it. So we gotta make sure we sing together. But the clapping is welcome, and let's practice the clapping. So. Awesome. All right, let's get ready to sing. Verse 3, 1, 2, and go. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, and that's the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. Back to the beginning. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Unitarian Church of Rochester. My name is Reverend AJ. I use he and him pronouns, and I welcome you to the First Unitarian Church of Rochester, where our mission is that through spiritual connection in community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves, we open to wonder and transformation, and we serve together with love and humility. Leading worship this morning is Reverend Keith Kron, our interim lead minister, preaching his first sermon with us. Very excited about that. And of course, we have Pablo for leading our music, and Chris, our worship associate. We've got our AV team keeping us connected to folks online and folks here in the room, and all of you, all of those gathered here to make Sunday morning the energetic and wonderful community that it is. If you are new or new-ish here, please do stop by the welcome desk in our lobby if you haven't already, to help so we can help you get connected and get to know you a little bit better. You can also join us after the service during Connection, where we connect in small group programs of various kinds. Every Sunday we have the Inquirers series, which is specially designed for newcomers, but also welcome to anyone who is interested in the rotating topic for that day. And I'll talk more about what that topic is at the end of the service. If you're here this morning because you're going through a hard time, or you were worried about somebody else who is, or the state of the world has got you down, please don't hesitate to reach out for pastoral care. We have lay pastoral care associates available to meet throughout the week. We've got Phil in the back of the sanctuary with a beige and rainbow stole. You can find him after the service or even during the service if that is what you need to do during this hour together. A couple housekeeping announcements so that you know what is happening here over the next couple weeks, because it is actually, today is the last Sunday that we're going to be worshiping up here in Gilbert Hall this summer, believe it or not. So next week is our annual animal blessing service. So please bring your furry or otherwise friends for blessing. We will be outside on the east lawn. If it rains, then we will be indoors in the sanctuary. But that will be one service still at 10:30 outside if weather permits for our animal blessing service. The following weekend is Labor Day weekend, and so we will be having a service around that in the sanctuary. Still one service at 10:30, and then following that on September 13th will be our homecoming service, our start to the church year. We will return to two services at 9:15 and 11:30, and we will again be in the sanctuary for the church year. So don't worry about keeping that all in your head. We will put that in the newsletter. We will tell you every week where we're going to be worshiping and what we're going to be doing, as we always do. And if you're not getting the newsletter, stop by the welcome desk and make sure that you're signed up to get to the newsletter so you can know what is happening and where we'll be. So I invite you now to take a deep breath, settle yourself for worship in what way best suits your body, mind, and soul. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, the keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people on whose ancestral and contemporary lands First Unitarian now stands. And I invite you online to light a chalice wherever you are. I invite Chris forward to light our chalice. We're going to need a little help from all of you to join in our unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. Gather.
Let's continue in song again, and we're going to be singing "'Tis the Gift to Be Simple." "'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. Let's do this all one more time from "'Tis the Gift." 1, 2. "'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we are to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right."
Whoa, there's a lot more people here than when I originally sat down. That was startling. My name is Chris. I use he, him pronouns. And as we start a new school year for many of us who are in academia, I'm reminded of a time 2 years ago, next month, when I started a new job in lower ed, as I like to call it, after 20-some years in higher ed, working for a local K-12 school. Now, being visibly, openly, clockably trans in America in 2026 is, as you might imagine, a fun adventure. And especially coming into a new place, there's a lot of trepidation about, will students and families welcome me? Will I be welcomed as part of the community? And the school where I'd worked was an extraordinarily welcoming place that I found. I felt comfortable right away. We had students and families of all sorts of different gender identities and sexualities, and the community was really, really robust. We had a little boy in our lower school who just liked wearing dresses, and he wore dresses every day. And so it was a really a wonderful community to be a part of. And so cut to like the second, third week of school, and we had open school night. Chance for the parents to come in and meet all of the teachers and administrators who would be part of their educational experience for the school year. And my role as a school administrator was to be part of the welcoming committee. And so I stood in the lobby welcoming families and shaking hands and meeting people and asking if they knew where they were going. And so it was overwhelming because there's a lot of people. And at one point, a woman entered, a mom, and she came over and introduced herself to me. And she said, I'm so-and-so's mom. I said, nice to meet you. Do you know where you're going? And she said, yeah. I said, great. And then she stopped, and she looked me right in the eye. And she said, did not let go of my hand, and said, I'm so-and-so's mom. And at that point, the little light bulb went on in my head. This was the mom of that little kid in our lower school who liked wearing dresses every day. Yeah, that happened. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. And that happened. Absolute waterworks, both of us, to have this moment of being seen. And she said, I don't know what our kid will be someday as he grows up. But I just know as parents, we listen to our kid and we love our kid, right? And so once we both sort of stopped crying, I thought to myself, that's why we come to church. Because ultimately, we all have our own individual stories that we bring here. There are lots of commonalities that we have, but there are lots of differences that we all have too. And it is those individual stories that make all the difference to make who we are as people and then who we are as a larger community. And so with that, I want you to take a quick second and say hello and make a new friend, or maybe a friend you already know, and just take a quick second and talk about, give just a name. Just the name of a teacher who impacted your school experience at any point in your life. Share that, and then Pablo will bring us back with music. Welcome.
I could never be that tall. I'm not going to worry about it. Good morning. I would like to invite, for the time for all ages, any children who would like to come forward to do so. You're also welcome to stay where you are, because I'm going to ask the adults to enjoy the time for all ages with us. So feel free to come up, make yourself comfortable, give yourselves a little room, because you are not going to be still. Good morning. My name is Keith. I am the new lead minister here. I'm going to tell you a couple things about me before I talk about it, because before I became a Unitarian minister, I was an elementary school teacher. I taught 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. And every year on the first day of school, when I just missed my students, I would teach them a chant. And I would teach them a chant called Joe. You may know it. Some of you may know it. It has been around for a while, clearly, because I taught a long time ago. But I want to teach it to you, and it has some movements with it, so you'll be doing it with me. I'd like to invite all of you to do it, too, because it's a whole lot more fun if everyone does it. So I'm going to say a line, and then I want you to repeat it back to me. Okay, first, let me tell you, the title of the chant is named Joe. And Joe is great because it can be anybody's name, can't it? It doesn't matter who it is. It can be spelled in a lot of different ways. Anyone can have the name as Joe. So watch me and repeat after me. Hi, my name is Joe. Hi, my name is Joe. I got a spouse and 3 kids. I got a spouse and 3 kids and work in a button factory. And work in a button factory. One day, my boss says to me, she says, Joe, are you busy? I say no. Are you busy? I say no. She says, turn the button with your left hand. She says, turn the button with your left hand. Great, now we're all going to do it together. And this is why you need some room, because clearly there's some movement. And we'll go to it. Here we go. Hi, my name is Joe. I got a spouse and 3 kids and work in a button factory. One day, my boss says to me, she says, Joe, are you busy? I say no. She says, turn the button with your left hand. Keep turning. Hi. My name is Joe. I got a spouse and 3 kids and work in a button factory. One day, my boss says to me, she says, Joe, are you busy? I say no. She says, turn the button with your right hand. Hi, my name is Joe. I got a spouse and 3 kids and work in a button factory. One day, my boss says to me, she says, Joe, are you busy? I say no. She says, turn the button with your left foot. Hi, my name is Joe. I got a spouse and 3 kids and work in a button factory. One day, my boss says to me, she says, Joe, are you busy? I say no. She says, turn the button with your right foot. Hi. My name is Joe. I got a spouse and 3 kids and work in a button factory. One day, my boss says to me, she says, Joe, are you busy? I say no. She says, turn the button with your head. Hi, my name is Joe. I got a spouse and 3 kids and work in a button factory. One day, my boss says to me, she says, Joe, are you busy? I say, yes. Well, you know, we do this on the very first day of 4th grade or 3rd grade or 2nd grade, because those are the grades I taught. And every year my students would look at me and go, This year is going to be a little bit different from the other years I've had. But it would be a great way for us to all be together, for us to get to know each other. I'd have all of the kids tell me their names, and so I would get to learn them after we do this. And it was a great way for us to start the school year, just like it's a great way to start the school year. You all did a great job with this, and so did you all. Some of you didn't know you were going to get your morning aerobics in this morning, did you? But I would invite you to get up. We will invite you all to help sing the children out to their classes, and I look forward to talking with you next time.
We bless you on your journey through, from sheltering arms to the wide sky blue, and your joyful jumps and your sad times too. You bless us by being you.
Spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer, beginning with a shared silence. Great mystery which grounds us, surrounds us. Divine presence known by many names and in many ways. We gather in community out of many individual lives, introducing ourselves and greeting one another into a shared space of community, building a shared life of faith, not of shared creed or shared beliefs, but of shared values, shared purpose, and shared commitment. In doing so, may we honor where each one of us comes from, offer courage and encouragement to one another in our journey, that we may know better who we are, who each other are, what we are, and whose we are. That the answers to these questions might lead us into deeper wisdom and into the deepest calls of action to live out our faith in the world and in our living. Not any answers that are final, of course, not any revelations which dispel the mystery or put an end to all uncertainty, but faithful answers, authentic answers from within us, answers which may change and grow just as we do, just as the world does, going on, spinning and changing, answers which lead us to more questions and more challenges, challenging ourselves to live our faith, to build a new way, to find hope as we find ways out of no way, to build the common good, even when everything around us seems to be at its bleakest. May we together face and befriend all that is our life, all the grief for what we have lost, all the gratitude we hold for what we have received, all the ways in which we are always growing. May we hold in tender love all those with whom we share this one precious lifetime, all those with whom we share this one precious earth. And by our bold and compassionate commitments, may we make love real in the world, again and again, for the very first time. May these things be so. Amen. Ashe. And blessed be. We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and lay it on the altar of community and spirit. So honoring the complexities of life, to bring to mind, bring to your awareness what is most alive within your heart, what grief, growth, what gratitude comes up for you. Online, you are invited to share what this may be in the chat. And here in the sanctuary, you are invited forward to one of the altars to choose a stone, perhaps hold it for a moment in your hands, and then drop it into the vessel of water. If you'd like an usher to bring a stone to you, please simply raise your hand. May you now come forth, and may we share in this ritual of community care and witness one another's hearts. all that we hold for in our hearts, for ourselves, for each other, for the world, is held in this community by the larger love that holds us all always. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Is made possible. Whoa, I know. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. All that our church is and all that our church does is made possible by the time, talent, and treasure that we give to our shared mission. Members and friends support this congregation financially through recurring giving. And on Sundays, we also give through our shared collection. As part of the spiritual practice of generosity, 50 cents of every dollar given now to our offering will go to Person-Centered Housing Options, Inc., or PCHO. PCHO is an innovative, non-for-profit organization whose mission is to address, prevent, and alleviate homelessness in Monroe County and the surrounding area using evidence-based housing and support strategies tailored to each person's need. Using Church Center is the easiest way to give, but if you aren't set up with the app yet, you can also give by texting GIVE and the amount you would like to give to the number on the screen, or in the offering baskets that will now be passed. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
11 by Sandra Cisneros. What they don't understand about birthdays, and what they never tell you, is that when you're 11, you're also 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And when you wake up on your 11th birthday, you expect to feel 11. But you don't. You open your eyes and everything's just like yesterday, only it's today. And you don't feel 11 at all. You feel like you're still 10. And you are. Underneath the year that makes you 11. Like some days, you might say something stupid, and that's the part of you that's still 10. And maybe some days, you might need to sit on your mother's lap because you're scared, and that's the part of you that's still 5. And maybe one day when you're all grown up, you'll need to cry like you're 3, and that's okay. That's what I tell my mama when she's sad and she needs to cry. Maybe she's feeling 3. Because the way we grow old is kind of like an onion, or like the rings inside a tree trunk, or like my little wooden dolls that fit one inside the other, each year inside the next. That's how being 11 years old is. You don't feel 11, not right away. It takes a few days, weeks even, sometimes even months, before you say 11 when they ask you. And you don't feel smart 11, not until you're almost 12. That's the way it is. The second reading comes from a children's book. As some of you know, I have a certain affinity for children's books. I probably have over 11,000 children's books in my own collection. This is from from the Van Gogh Cafe by Cynthia Rylant, one of my favorite authors. It was written in the early 90s. Cynthia Rylant is a woman originally from Appalachian, West Virginia. Somewhere at times, she moved across the country to Oregon, and I suspect she found a place that was the inspiration for the Van Gogh Cafe, possibly in Flowers, Kansas. This is how she described the Van Gogh Cafe in Flowers, Kansas, which actually is not a town. She says it's a place where magic happens. And magic happens there because it was an old theater, an old vaudeville theater where people came and did magical acts, and that the cafe actually remembers the magic from its original performances. This is a story of one of those magical events. This is the story of the possum. Kansas is not what you would call picturesque. It is flat. It is so flat that it could make some people a little crazy. People who need a hill now and then to keep their balance. But in Kansas, at least things get noticed. The flatness makes everything count, and not one thing slips by. That is why if a possum were going to choose to hang upside down somewhere, Kansas would be a good choice. People would notice. And if the possum chose to hang upside down of the front window of the Van Gogh Cafe in Flowers, Kansas, well, then everyone would start talking about magic. And that would be good for the possum, too. The Van Gogh Cafe is owned by a young man named Mark and his daughter, Clara. Clara is another reason for all of the magic at the cafe. She is 10 and believes anything might happen. Clara takes orders first thing in the morning before going across the street to get their apartment to get ready for school. And she likes taking orders then because everyone is sleepy and sweet And all they want in the world is a cup of coffee, please. Clara thinks that mornings are the kindest time of day. Now, most of the people who come to the Van Gogh Cafe are flowers people, and they know each other. Hi, Ray. Hello, Roy. But sometimes someone is new, because Flowers sits near Interstate 70, which people take when they're escaping from an old life in the East to a new life in the West, or the other way around. Clara has met many people between 6 and 6:30 on their way to something new. But she has not met a possum until today. It's Saturday. She's working a couple extra hours for her father. I wish I could see that. Clearly, it's entertaining. And suddenly, outside the window, Clara sees a possum hanging in the tree outside of the cafe. She sees it first and says, "Look, there's a possum." Well, coffee cups go down, heads turn, and outside, a little gray possum enjoys being noticed. It scratches its nose and blinks its eyes back at all the faces. Now, no one sitting down can say hello to a possum, so everyone gets up in the cafe and they go and stand in front of the window. Now, this is part of the magic of the Van Gogh Cafe. Not one person says, "Amazing, a possum hanging upside down on Main Street." No, everyone is not all that surprised because they, like Clara, have come to believe that anything might happen. Because they've been having breakfast at the cafe all of their lives. What they do say is, "Hi." Some of them wave. Roy asks Ray what possums eat. And with their typical curiosity about every new face in town, they all say, "I wonder where he's from." Well, it's hard to know a possum's story before he does something magical, but once he does, there is story and more to tell. One of the first stories, the possum is back at the cafe every day, 8 o'clock in the morning. He is up in that tree, and that's just a small story. It's a small story because he attracts people. And he attracts people who haven't been getting along. Best friends who had a fight the day before. Today they're standing on the sidewalk next to the possum. The possum is hanging upside down and blinking. The two friends are talking. And then suddenly they've got their arms around each other. They're heading into the cafe for some pie. A young husband and wife, the day before they're yelling in their front yard. The next day they are kissing beside the possum. Two neighbors, the day before arguing about loud music. The next day the possum is watching them shake hands. And then this story gets bigger because people start bringing food outside of the Van Gogh Cafe. Food for the possum. Half an English muffin here, 2 oven-fried potatoes there, a cup of milk. They can't help themselves. They want to give it some food. The possum isn't hungry. But a stray dog from the other side of town is, and she starts stopping by for breakfast. So does a thin cat and her 2 baby kittens, a shy small mouse, several sparrows, even a deer. And this goes on for a while until the biggest story happens. A story that will enter quietly into the walls of the Van Gogh Cafe, and it will become a part of its magic. For a man whose wife has died is passing through Flowers, Kansas, one morning on his way to something new. He is sad. He really isn't sure where he is going. But passing the Van Gogh Cafe, he sees the possum. He sees the possum, and he sees all the hungry animals standing beneath them, eating the scraps of muffins and potato. And the man sees something else there too. something no one else has seen until now. And because of what he sees, he turns his car around and he drives back home, back to his farm, back to where he belongs. And he turns his farm into a home for stray animals who will come to him, who he can care for, who he can love, who will take away some of his loneliness. Since that day, the possum at the Van Gogh Cafe has disappeared. 1 minute it was there, the next minute it wasn't, but the customers, they still bring out food in case anyone hungry happens by. There's always a new stray dog, a new thin cat, sparrows. Clara is not surprised the possum has gone away. Things are always changing at the Van Gogh Cafe, and something new is sure to happen soon. Perhaps when the silent movie star arrives. It is so good to be with you. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about me, introduce you to me. In the upcoming months, I'll talk about transitional ministry, my hopes for our faith, and who we can become. But I begin with a story from my own life, a story that led me to ministry, that happened while I was teaching elementary school some 35 years ago. I was unpacking children's book at the time. My principal, Jay Jordan, walked into my classroom and he closed the door. He surveyed my room and he shook his head. Definitely a Keith Kron 4th grade classroom. There were a few books here, a few chairs there, 2 bulletin boards scattered all over the floor, and the school year would not start for 2 days yet. We looked at each other, and I knew I was at the OK Corral. I wasn't sure what I was about to be shot for, but I knew something was up. Perhaps you've seen the face and the fidgeting of a 9-year-old child who lied to you 20 minutes before about having to use the restroom but now really needs to go. Well, my principal looked somewhat less composed than that. He asked me if I had gotten his message from the day before about wanting to talk to him about something. I told him I had. Silence. More fidgeting. I'm glad we're on your turf, he said. And I began to have an inkling of what this conversation was going to be about. You know Tristan Burke is no longer on your class list. I nodded again. His mother made me take him out of your class. Jay looked down and then back up. I nodded again. Tristan's mother was president of the PTA that year. I only vaguely knew who Tristan was, and the only thing I knew about him was he was the most effeminate boy I'd encountered in 5 years of teaching. His mother made me take him out of your class because she says she knows you're a homosexual. I don't know how she knows it, but she knows it. Jay looked at me, and I looked at him, and I could see the wheels spinning in his head. I would wonder later if he could see the wheels spinning in mine. Fortunately and sadly, I had prepared for this moment. I had no doubts it would come out at some point. Years of thinking about it had almost kept me from going into teaching, but the call to teach had won out. I knew to say nothing. I knew to wait to be asked and then I would answer yes. Only then. I raised my eyebrows back at him. More silence. More fidgeting. Part of me was hoping that he would ask, that I would finally be given an opportunity to tell him, that I could finally tell my story. But he didn't ask. He broke the silence. "This is ridiculous," he said. "You're not the type of person to harm children." We looked at each other, and I nodded silently, realizing the support I was getting from him in that moment in 1989. Jay finally mumbled, "I shouldn't have pulled him out of your class." "She would have made your year horrible," I said. "Mine too, for that matter." "It's okay." Jay nodded quietly back at me. "We did reading groups today," I said. "Tristan will be in my class for reading. It's an hour each day." Jay was firmer now. "You'll get my backing. She will just have to deal with it. There's another parent concerned, too. I'll deal with him as well." We won't talk about this again. Jay surveyed my room. "Now, get this room cleaned up. I don't know how you're going to be ready to start teaching in 2 days." He spun on his heels and he turned toward the door. He opened it and he turned back to me. "I'm glad we did this on your turf," he repeated. And he looked at me one last time, tried to smile, and he left, closing the door behind him. For the next 4 years, I never heard any of those complaints again. Tristan and I got along famously. I invited his mother to come into reading class to help out when she could, and she did. And she and I laughed a lot together that year. From me, she learned all about the fine art of teasing children, and probably a few other things. It occurs to me I should tell you now why I'm here as your new lead minister, why I do the work of Unitarian Universalist ministry, and am not teaching 4th grade. I left teaching elementary school because I was afraid. Now, it was more than being afraid of being found out and fired for being a known homosexual. That was certainly a part of it. The longer I stuck around in Kentucky, the greater the odds were that my private life would become public knowledge. My parents, who didn't use the words gay or homosexual until 2010, were a part of this story too. My father was a principal in the same school system I taught in. My mother taught 1st grade at a neighboring school as well. I knew any public battle I chose to engage in there would also have included them. So I never had the opportunity of thinking of fighting this battle alone, and my folks had given me a lifetime of modeling to know how to overprotect. I also knew I lived 4 lives in Lexington, Kentucky. I lived a work life where I loved the work of teaching elementary school. I lived a family life where I went over to and had dinner with my folks once a week, visited my grandmother a lot, overspent on my relatives at Christmas. I lived a gay life where I hung out with my friends, led a support group, and played volleyball. I lived a religious life where I sat on nearly every committee of my home Unitarian Universalist congregation and moved on to district and denominational work beyond that. I certainly managed to see some overlapping. My work life and my family life overlapped some. And as I came out in my congregation, my gay life and my religious life began to merge. We were very hard back then at bringing gay, lesbian, and bisexual and transgender people into our congregation. Worked very hard at making our congregation welcoming to all people. And it happened. It happened in part because I and others started telling our stories in church. I was able to tell the story as a high school senior, having a crush on Mr. Gardner, my high school drama teacher, and as a 17-year-old working up the courage to tell him about that crush. I was able to tell the story of being raised in a very conservative Southern Baptist church and having my Anita Bryant-type Sunday school teacher ask me if I agreed with her that homosexuals were sick people. I was able to tell the story of coming out to my parents and having my own father ask me if I was going to molest children while my mother cried. I was able to tell the story of meeting a Unitarian Universalist minister one night in a gay bar, and that's where I first learned about Unitarian Universalism. I was becoming aware that not only could I be 11 and 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, but that I could talk about them as well. You see, my real fear is not that someone like my principal would ask me if I was gay, would ask me my story. My real fear is that I would never get to tell it. This is what the radical right MAGA people want, to make sure that only certain approved stories can be told. This is why the work that our denomination has done around all kinds of rights for people around race, gender, identity, sexual orientation, ability, age is so vitally, vitally important. I was afraid I would never get to have a life. I was afraid I would always have 4 of them. And my fear is not that my private life would become public knowledge. My fear is either that it never would or would happen only on someone else's terms. When I hear people say they want to make sure they have a public life and a private life, I wonder, do they really want 2 lives? Categories for human beings really are a bad idea. I think I learned that during my conversation with my principal. As an aside, I do understand that people are talking about control and choice when they make the point about wanting to have a private life. I'm all for that. I just believe as human beings we do better when we only have 1 life to juggle. It's more than enough to do. So it was after this conversation with my principal that I began to know that I needed to make a change. I looked around me and I became sadly aware of the number of people who I knew who were also leading more than 1 life at a time. There was my teaching colleague across the hallway who had been married to a man who had a sexual addiction for children, yet she could never talk about this. My own father who tried to pretend that he never had a father and never talked about him. My friend Steve, who quit playing the piano because he became a librarian. I still haven't figured that one out. My friend Sandra, who told no one about her live-in boyfriend, Dick. All of these people and so many more who never got to be 11. It was hardest for me to see in the children I taught. Children who would go home from school and have to cook and clean for younger brothers and sisters. Children who knew they could not fail. Children who would have to parent their parents. Children who would go home to wars. And by the time they were 9 years old, they already knew they had to keep these lives quiet. Religious educator Maria Harris talks about implicit education, what we teach without ever actually saying it out loud. I knew I was implicitly teaching my students to have more than 1 life. I wondered how I might make it better. I looked at cities that had non-discrimination policies for teachers, but back then, at that time, I didn't trust that those were real. I looked at the amount of work I had to do, and I thought about the fact that I often spent more time documenting what I taught, how I taught it, and who was there to hear it than I did getting to teach some days. So I looked elsewhere. The person I saw doing the most teaching was my minister and the other Unitarian Universalist ministers I knew. And they didn't have to fill out report cards either. Remember, Jesus was a teacher in many ways. Rabbis consider themselves to be teachers. And I watched the UU ministers I knew, and I watched the way they taught people around them. Often by telling stories. Often their own stories. At the same time, I'd begun leading homophobia workshops in UU congregations, not how to have more of it, but how to have less. And I learned quickly 3 things about teaching adults. 1, they don't necessarily have longer attention spans than children. They just do a better job of faking. Engaging people on an emotional level increases their attentiveness. 2, adult learning is as much about unlearning as it is about learning. 3, the product isn't nearly as important as the process. So how do you teach people to be less homophobic or less racist? Well, explicitly, you're teaching them about homophobia or racism. Implicitly, you're teaching them about vulnerability. Now, that's where the possum shows up. That's where the magic happens. Because as people let themselves become more vulnerable, they become stronger. They become less racist, less homophobic, less afraid, even more human. After 30 years now in ministry, this is also true for change. I've done this for the last 30 years in ministry through telling stories. What I've discovered is how blessed I am to hear the stories of others. And I saw the possibility and created the possibility to have one life. A friend of mine from seminary and I were talking one day, and she said you could learn a fair amount about a person by asking them these 4 questions. 1, when did you stop singing? 2, when did you stop dancing? 3, when did you stop playing? 4, when did you stop telling your story? For the record, I stopped singing in 3rd grade when Mrs. Rice said I shouldn't sing anymore. I still go dancing. I still play. And as I told my friend Marianne, it's more a matter of when I started telling my story than when I stopped. I stopped telling my story at 14. It would be 10 years later when I became a Unitarian Universalist that I started telling some of my stories again. And when I went into ministry, I stopped figuring out what story I could tell where. Like the story of the possum, one story leads to another. And when we hear our story in someone else's story, well, that is the magic. That is the mystery. What are your stories? Have you stopped telling them? You only tell them in certain places? In certain lives? How well do you know the stories of those around you? Because the stories in this room are magical. And I hope you are not afraid to tell them. These are the stories that I am hoping to learn over the next 2 years. Your stories. The stories of your lives, the stories of how you live your faith, the stories of this congregation, the stories that matter to you. I want to hear what you have loved most about Unitarian Universalism and about this congregation. I also want to hear the stories of when your faith and when this church has let you down, because all those things are real and true for many of you. I want to hear the stories of how you've grown, how your faith has deepened, what you want your faith, this congregation, and our religious movement to be. I want to hear about what your hope is for the future. This is the magic that I hope that we can share over the next 2 years. All the stories of your life, so they let you fully be 11 or whatever age you are. And now a final story, also from the Van Gogh Cafe, and then I will close. This is the story of the Silent Star. It is winter in the cafe. Mark is in the back cooking, though the restaurant is empty. Clara is putting napkins into the napkin holder when a man walks in. He is tall, slender, and moves like water. Strikingly handsome, a fabulous dresser. Black cloak, black cashmere scarf, black wool gloves, black cane. His white hair sets it off perfectly. He must be 90. Clara takes his order. Pea plain, boiled egg, please. Thank you. Clara thinks there is something romantic about him. And after his food is served, Mark comes out of the kitchen looking for his watch. He looks around and he sees the man. He sees the man and he stops what he is doing and he stares. He stares because he knows who the elegant man in the cafe is. He is a star. Clara doesn't know, of course. She's watched the old films with her father, but except for Chaplin, she doesn't know their names, only their movements. And perhaps it is the way that the elegant man has moved through the cafe that reminds her of something she has seen before. Reminds everyone, but none can quite place the memory. The breakfast hours pass and people come and go their way to work, the mall at the edge of town, back home. But the elegant man stays on. He's hardly touched his egg. His teacup is still half full. The door of the Van Gogh Cafe opens and closes. Opens and closes. And yet he stays on looking out the window. Finally, Mark cannot help himself. When there was no one left in the cafe, he walks over and introduces him to him, and he offers his hand, and they gracefully shake. I know your work, Mark says softly. I love it. I love all of your films. Clara's eyes are wide. She has not known until now that a star is in her cafe, and the old man blushes. And he smiles. Thank you, he says. There is an awkward moment. Then graciously he offers Mark and Clara the 2 empty chairs at his table. Happily they sit. Mark and the Silent Star talk about the old films as Clara listens. There is an innocence in her father's face that she has not seen before. He is like a boy. And the Silent Star seems pleased, quietly thrilled to talk of his work with someone who knows it so well. To finally tell his story. He laughs and sighs and even trembles slightly, reliving it all. There is a moment when each is silent, catching a breath. Why, sir, are you at the Van Gogh Cafe? Mark gently asks. Clara waits. The old man seems glad someone has asked, and he reaches into his coat and he pulls forth an old photograph. He hands it first to Clara and then to Mark. It is of a beautiful young man in a top hat and waistcoat, standing before an old theater. Is this? Yes, replies the Silent Star. The building is the Van Gogh Cafe, when it was still a theater. He and I did some shows here together. Summer, we met. The silent star smiles and puts the photograph back into his coat. Today I am waiting for him. Clara's heart is pounding. She feels like she herself is in a movie. Each gesture the man makes, each word the man speaks, it is so beautiful to her. She knows the cafe remembers this man. She can feel it drawing into him, reaching for this man who's been a part of the first magic on the stage of the old theater. And oddly, not one person has walked into the cafe to break the spell. Mark offers the star a fresh cup of tea and a piece of apple pie, which are gratefully accepted. Then Mark and Clara leave the old man to his waiting. The lunch hours come and go, then the dinner hours, the silent star waits. Occasionally, Mark or Clara offer him something, but he politely declines. And they find themselves watching the door, watching the window, waiting for a beautiful young man in a top hat and waistcoat. Finally, it is time to close, and still the old man is waiting. He seems very tired now. Tired, but unworried. He asks Mark if he might sit by the window a little longer. Of course, says Mark, so he offers his guest room to the man, offers to take him home for the evening, and return him to the table by the window the next day. But the old man is certain that his friend is coming very soon. Very soon, he says. So Mark takes Clara home and he returns to the cafe a few hours later to check on the old man. At first, he thinks the man is asleep. And then he realizes that the man has died. And in the old man's hand, he finds a newspaper clipping that is cracked and yellow. Clipping shows the face of the beautiful young man in the top hat and waistcoat. It reports he was drowned in 1936. And in the old man's other hand is the same photograph that Mark and Clara were shown, but now the photograph is gone. The man in the picture is gone, and there's only a soft, empty light where he was standing. Mark and Clara keep the photograph and the newspaper clipping inside a small box near the cash register. And every so often, when things are quiet, they pull these out and they look at them again. They each think how perfect it is that the silent star has died, for he found his true love, for he came back to the Van Gogh Cafe, and he waited for his friend to take him home. Whatever forces are against you, whatever pain and suffering is yours, whatever joy you have, whatever your story is, my wish for you is that you can share your story whenever and wherever you choose. Whether you are 11 or 90 or somewhere in between. Sing, dance, play, tell your story. Listen to the stories of others. Live your one life and feel. Feel its magic.
All right, let's sing one more song, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for feel, for hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Please join us. Please join us for connection, to introduce ourselves, to get to know one another, to share our stories, whether that's enjoying coffee together or joining one of our connection programs. The Inquirer series, I will be in there. We'll be talking about small group ministry, our Soul Matters program, where people gather in small groups and share their stories and get to know one another. We have our nature-based spirituality group doing some crafting for all ages are welcome. They'll be making witch bells. And, of course, as every week, our This Is What Democracy Looks Like social justice ministry will be meeting right here in the sanctuary. And remember, next week, we will be having our animal blessing, and weather permitting, we will be outside on the east lawn. I'm going to invite Chris to extinguish our chalice, and I invite you to join in our unison words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light.
I invite you, if you are comfortable, if you are willing, to take the hand of the person next to you, if they are comfortable and willing. You can also simply, if you're at home or prefer, take your own hand. Become aware of the hands that you are holding, their warmth, their texture, their weight. As an infant, these hands reached out for the nourishment of milk. As a child, these hands shakily wrote a name on paper for the first time. These are hands that have wiped away tears, clenched in anger, waved hello and goodbye countless times, and embraced loved ones. And now these hands are the tangible link that connect us to one another. These are hands that have worked, are working, and will work to make our world a better place. I invite you to look around you and see those around you who have experienced so much that is life. May this circle be open, but never broken. Go in peace, go in love, work for justice, go forth and bless the world. Amen. Ashe, blessed be.
right second. Two things. First of all, there's a couple, fourth time, fourth.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Did you get my email?
I did. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Thank you so much for that time together. And I haven't looked at the music yet, but I know I've seen that piece and I haven't
Sorry.
Yeah, it's got a really pretty cover actually. So I've had it in a pile of music for us to do sometimes. So
Is that the name of it? Sorry, or I can't remember now.
that I can't remember, but I know that I had like when I saw when you sent me that title, I'm like I have that in that pile of like music that I pulled over weeks. Yeah, so that would be really, really lovely. I just got an email this morning about choirs and doing stuff like that, so check that out so you can put it in your calendar. But making that time to spend together was great.
That was special.
Yeah, sorry I didn't get back to you. We had
That's all right.
we had our retreat the last couple of days after that, so I was here like 8-10 hours, and I was like,
Well, when you have a meeting with the team,
yeah.
I would encourage more that someone to put a notice in the letter or the email or the church newsletter inviting people to join the party.
Oh yeah, no, that's for next week.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Good to see you.
Hey, you do.
Hey Dave, I owe you on the message. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Good. So I sent the choir an email this morning.